years in, and I was bored. Anna was just too reserved in bed. Nothing like my new secretary. It was 1 in the morning. I lit a cigarette after we were done, and Jessica lay in my arms, soft and innocent. She traced the lines of my abs while complaining. "It's all your fault we went so late. I'm going to be late for work again tomorrow." Hearing her playful tone, I flicked the ash from my cigarette, feeling pretty good. I wrapped my arm around her, coaxing, "It's fine. I'll give you the day off." She pressed her body closer and pulled out her phone to snap a few selfies. Seemingly unsatisfied, she pouted, "Come on, play along." She was alluring. I couldn't resist leaning down. Click. She hit the shutter button, then shook her phone happily. "This one's good." I don't remember what time I fell asleep. My internal clock woke me at 8. I got up, dressed, and was about to leave when Jessica, who I thought was asleep, called out to me. "You're leaving?" Not even a goodbye kiss. With Anna, I never needed a reminder. Good morning and good night were things etched into my soul. It suddenly hit me that I'd forgotten to text her goodnight. I glanced at my phone. Our last exchange was at 9 last night when I told her I was working late at the office. She'd replied, "Okay." I had lied. There was no overtime. I was with my secretary all night. She hadn't sent another message. My silence must have lasted too long because Jessica spoke up, not getting the answer she wanted. "Baby, what are you thinking about?" I have to admit, hearing her call me that pleased me. Anna never called me that. As she wished, I walked over and kissed her. "Morning, babe." When I got to the office, a message from Anna came through. "Are you at the office?" It was like she had timed it perfectly. I replied, "Just got in." Then silence. I think I forgot. I had told her I was at the office all night yesterday. 10 minutes later, she was in my office. Back when the company was just a startup, I was so excited and invited her to see it several times, but she always declined, saying she was busy. I was so in love with her then, a fiery, all-consuming love. I wanted to share everything good with her, to proudly introduce her to my employees. "This is your boss's wife." But she missed that time. Now, when the front desk called to say Ms. Miller was here to see me, I felt no urge to introduce her to anyone. I just said she was a friend and to let her in. She was wearing a simple t-shirt and jeans, her long black hair falling loosely around her shoulders. She had a great figure, but she never wore anything form-fitting or sexy. She didn't have styled, wavy hair like Jessica, whose every move was pure seduction. If Jessica was an intoxicating whiskey, Anna was a plain glass of water. After she came in, I had my assistant get her a coffee while I stayed seated, flipping through documents. This wasn't the first time I'd been with Jessica. At first, I felt guilty, unsure how to face Anna. But as it happened more often, I seemed to grow bolder. "What brings you here?" I asked, my tone perfectly natural. The coffee was placed on the table next to the sofa, but she didn't sit. In my peripheral vision, I saw her take out her phone, tap it a few times, and hand it to me. The moment I saw the photo on the screen, I felt an undeniable jolt of panic. It was the one Jessica took last night. The timestamp showed Anna received it at 1:30 a.m. Jessica must have sent it right after she took it, when I wasn't paying attention. Wait, how did Jessica get her number? I checked my phone. She had shared the contact from my iMessage. Jessica had added her. I started to panic. This was the office. If she made a scene, it would look bad. I needed to calm her down, maybe lie my way out of it. But she didn't. Her voice was completely flat. She said, "Noah, once I walk out that door, we're done." From the moment she walked in to the moment she left, less than 5 minutes had passed. She didn't even sit down. The second the door closed, I let out a breath of relief I didn't know I was holding. I had been distant with her for a while, debating whether to find a way to break up. But today, it was all laid out on the table. I didn't have to say a word, and she didn't cry or scream. This was probably the best possible outcome. But in my relief, I failed to notice she said, "We're done, not let's break up." In my eyes, Anna had always been a calm and rational person. I just never imagined she'd be so rational that seeing a photo of me in bed with someone else would elicit no emotion, just a quiet, "We're done," before turning and walking away without a second glance. I was distracted for the rest of the day. That evening, Jessica called and asked if I was coming over. I was renting that apartment for her for my own convenience. For some reason, I thought of Anna again, and a wave of discomfort washed over me. I asked Jessica, "Why did you send that picture to my girlfriend?" There was a pause on the other end, then her voice turned playful again. "It was an accident. Did your girlfriend make a scene? Are you mad at me?" Hearing her tone, most of my anger dissipated. "I'm not mad at you. I knew you wouldn't be," she cooed. Hearing my softened attitude, she continued, "Didn't you say you wanted to break up with her for a long time anyway?" Yes, I had told Jessica more than once that I wanted to break up with Anna and be with her. But I always said it in bed. Jessica was smart. She knew how to please a man. Being with her was fun and liberating. When Anna and I were good, I used to be like a lovesick teenager, glued to my phone, waiting for her texts. I didn't have to do that anymore. Jessica texted and called me often, but if I didn't reply, I knew she wouldn't get upset. After the breakup, I spent most of my time at her place. She kept probing, asking if I had officially broken up with Anna. For some reason, I never told her the truth, just said it was happening soon. The mix of hope and disappointment in her eyes was obvious. I remembered how Anna, when she was sad, would press her lips together. Back then, I always had some stupid way to make her smile. Like, "Anna's not happy. Let me take you out for some fun." Or, "Smile, and I'll buy you a slice of the best pizza in Brooklyn." Or even, "If you don't listen, I'm going to have to use my mouth." She probably had never met someone so shamelessly persistent, because she always ended up laughing. But I thought for a long time and couldn't come up with a single way to make Jessica happy. The next time I heard Anna's name was at a business gala. I had been so caught up with Jessica that I'd neglected the company. My friend Alex called me while I was still at Jessica's apartment watching a movie. Alex was my partner and the real power behind the company. She was the main investor back when it was just me and my tech skills. She gave me my shot. This was the first time I'd attended one of these events in over a month. Alex introduced me to several CEOs, all heavy hitters in the industry. With her introduction, they exchanged pleasantries and clinked glasses with me, a gesture of acknowledgement. People were chatting in small groups. Someone brought up the upcoming merger between the Miller family and another major player. I nodded along at first until it dawned on me. The Miller family heiress, that was Anna. My Anna. She was getting engaged. We had only been broken up for a month. No, she never even said the words break up. Unlike their dismissive attitude towards me moments before, when they talked about the Miller engagement, their words were full of praise, even though the couple wasn't there. Alex knew about Anna and me. She leaned in, confused. "Noah, aren't you with the Miller heiress? When I called you today, I swear I heard a woman's voice in the background." I was stunned into silence. She seemed to figure it out. "Another woman. So you two broke up. That makes sense. I was wondering why you've been so different lately, like you've lost all your drive." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. It was true. I used to work myself to the bone, day and night, driven by the fantasy that if I just did a little more, climbed a little higher, I could finally be on her level. Everything I did was to be worthy of her. When did that change? Was it when Jessica accidentally spilled coffee on me and tearfully tried to wipe it off? Or every time she seductively called me Mr. Davis? Or the first time I drove her home and didn't refuse her invitation to come upstairs? The crowd was still buzzing about what a powerhouse combination the two families would be. I stood behind them, holding my champagne flute, unable to get a word in. That was the gap between us. Even if I struck it rich and was worth hundreds of millions, I'd still just be some new money upstart, not even in her league. So those 3 years were just something I had stolen. Jessica was begging for a new designer bag. I agreed and took her to Fifth Avenue. She was ecstatic, pointing at this and that. I got annoyed, handed her my credit card, and told her to go wild. I went to a nearby trash can to light a cigarette. When I was with Anna, she never asked for anything. I remember when I got my first real paycheck from a side gig and bought her a necklace. She said it was beautiful, but didn't accept it. She loved this one high-end sushi place, but I was so broke back then I couldn't afford it. Sensing my embarrassment, she would comfort me. "I like that place, but it's not the only thing I can eat." Every time we went out, to protect my pathetic pride, she would pretend to think for a long time, then point to the cheapest little food stall on the corner and say, "Let's go there." She could attend the most exclusive galas, but she could also eat at a street cart with me without a hint of complaint. I loved her so much then, and she was genuinely good to me. But with her, I always felt insecure, and I never felt like she truly needed me. I often thought that she was just too self-sufficient. It was like she was indifferent to everything, like nothing in the world could truly touch her. But thinking back, my life got better, and my ambition grew stronger all because of her. Jessica finally emerged, loaded with shopping bags. "Honey, I also got some lace lingerie. I'll wear it for you tonight," she said, as if showing off. A few passersby heard her and shot us disapproving looks. Why'd I ever fall for this? I felt ashamed. As I looked up, I saw a familiar figure. I moved toward her almost instinctively. My dress, shoes clicked loudly on the pavement, a sound my own ears refused to hear. Maybe the unconscious quickening of my pace was a subconscious warning to myself. Don't go over, don't bother her. But in the instant my heart started racing, logic lost. "Anna, it's been a while." The words came out as soon as I stopped. Could she hear the tremor in my voice, the anxiety, and the joy? It wasn't about anyone else. It wasn't planned. We just met like this. Isn't that fate? Hearing her name, she paused. She looked up, and I saw her hand, tucked in her pocket, subtly wipe the sweat from her palm. Only then did I manage a composed smile and extend my hand. "Fancy seeing you here." For a long moment, she just smiled back without taking my hand. "It is." I knew I looked pathetic, but seeing her arm linked so intimately with the man beside her, I couldn't bring myself to just walk away. Her expression was perfectly composed. When our eyes met, it was like looking at a stranger. A wave of indescribable sadness washed over me. I must have been out of my mind to break up with her. I loved her so much. We were together for 3 years. I couldn't be over her, not this quickly. "Anna, can you just—" "Honey, what are you doing over here?" Jessica cut me off, wrapping her arms around me from behind. She then tilted her chin towards Anna, as if declaring ownership. But Anna didn't even glance at her. She just politely introduced the man beside her. "This is my husband." She called him her husband. After the news of their engagement hit the Wall Street Journal, I had done some digging on him. Preston Hayes, 27, 2 years older than us. Not as young as me. 6'1", just an inch taller. As for looks, the comments under every media report were filled with "so handsome." But I was the campus heartthrob in college. I knew I wasn't losing in that department. But there was one thing I couldn't compete with. Preston Hayes was more qualified to stand by her side. Preston's expression was calm. He asked symbolically, "And this is—" I saw her mouth the words, "Someone I used to know." We weren't close. Then she gave a slight nod, the most basic of courtesies, and walked away, arm in arm with her man. I was stone-faced the entire ride back to the apartment. Jessica knew better than to say anything. But the moment we were inside, she wrapped herself around me like a vine, her voice dripping with seduction. "You two are broken up, right?" I pushed her away and lit a cigarette. I suddenly felt so bored. What had I been thinking, messing around with someone like this? I was supposed to be following in Anna's footsteps, climbing higher and higher to meet her at the top. But now I belonged in the gutter. I chain-smoked, one after another, the fire in my chest growing. When Jessica tried to get close again, I finally snapped and slapped her. "Get out. My girlfriend and I are fine. Stop bothering me." I grabbed my car keys and stormed out. I drove aimlessly for hours, eventually ending up parked outside her building. It was a high-end condo. Outside vehicles weren't allowed. I used to drive her home all the time, which is why I still had access. I suddenly remembered how she used to resist letting me drive her home. It always took a lot of convincing before she'd agree. The next day at work, my employees looked shocked to see me. "Boss, you look terrible." "Doi." I rubbed my temples. It was probably because I spent the whole night sitting in my car outside her building. My calls to her went straight to voicemail, and my texts were met with silence. I didn't even know if she was there. She had many places, but this was the only one I knew. All night, the apartment was dark, but I sat there, imagining she had just gone to bed early. She disappeared so completely, without a shred of mercy. But Anna, if only you hadn't shown me mercy 5 years ago. If you could go back 5 years, the 20-year-old Noah was even more of a wreck than I am now. No family, no support, struggling to get by, paying for tuition and living expenses with one part-time job after another. The only reason I landed a waiter job at that upscale hotel was because Alex, my roommate at the time, pulled some strings. The standards there were ridiculously high, even for waiters, but the pay was incredible. Luckily, Alex came from money and had connections. Seeing how broke I was, she helped me out. The clientele were all rich and powerful. The most common lecture we got was, "I'm not trying to scare you, but you need to be meticulous. We can't afford to offend anyone who walks through these doors." I knew that if people were divided into classes, I was at the very bottom. So I listened to every word the manager said, never slacking off for a second, terrified of accidentally offending some big shot. But you can't plan for everything. One day, a table of young people came in, looking like college students. They were chatting animatedly, like old friends. They talked about things I didn't understand, using words I'd never heard. At the center of the group was a girl. Her skin was incredibly fair, and she was beautiful in a way I couldn't describe. At her age, she lacked the typical liveliness of her peers. Beneath her beauty was an undeniable coolness. Yes, the first word that came to mind when I saw her was cool. It didn't fit with the passionate energy of youth, yet it suited her perfectly. As they talked, she smiled faintly. When someone teased her, she responded naturally. I found myself staring, completely captivated. The closest I could get to her was when I served a dish to their table. My eyes were involuntarily drawn to her. A man next to her suddenly stood up. A whole bowl of hot soup spilled on me. The man was inevitably splashed as well. She frowned, giving me a sharp look. I apologized profusely. The manager rushed over and took the man to a private room to change. Their mood soured, they left soon after. As they were leaving, the manager was cornering me in the lobby, giving me a dressing down. I kept my head down, not daring to argue. That job was too important to me. I desperately needed the money. After a long lecture, it was clear he was about to fire me. I had no choice but to accept my fate. But in my peripheral vision, I saw her walking over. I didn't dare turn my head, afraid she would see my pathetic state. I felt her getting closer. Finally, I couldn't resist a glance. Our eyes met. Her expression was utterly composed. It was the kind of poise only someone from the true upper class could possess. She handed a handkerchief to the manager and said, "I think he's hurt." Then, without another look at me, she turned and left. After that, the manager didn't give me any more trouble. To her, it was probably a small act of kindness, but it was something I remembered for years. It's been 2 months since we parted, but instead of forgetting, I find myself thinking of her more and more. Jessica refused to leave quietly, insisting on harassing me. She caused a huge scene in my office, demanding to know if I ever intended to be with her. I found it laughable. What makes you think I would ever be with you? Things a man says in bed are just words. That only made her more hysterical. I had no choice but to fire her. I felt no pity for her. How could I have been so stupid? The person I loved was always Anna. How did sleeping with someone else a few times make me think my heart had changed? A new body only brings novelty, not love. Why couldn't I control myself back then? All told, we've known each other for 5 years. I shamelessly pursued her for 2 years, and we were together for 3. Time flies, but these 2 months apart feel like a lifetime. If only time could have slowed down when I was with her. If I could turn seconds into hours, I would have used the first hour after meeting her to say everything. Thank you. Where are you going next? Can I buy you dinner? I can sing Twinkle, Twinkle Little Star. A lot of people say I'm good. I know a funny joke. Want to hear it? Do you like riding bikes? I can give you a ride. I have a complete collection of your favorite author's books. Can I give them to you? I think I'm going to fall very hard for you. Will you like me back? Do we have a chance to be together? If we get together, can it be forever? And Anna, I swear I'll never cheat again. Can we please start over? No one could answer me. The news of her engagement was released 2 weeks in advance and dominated the financial headlines. A long time ago, about a year into our relationship, I started talking about our future. I said, if I'm lucky enough to marry you, I want our engagement and wedding to be on your birthday. She didn't say anything, so I just kept talking. Because a year ago, on your birthday, when I showed up in the rain with a soggy cake, You said we could cherish the present. I know the future is uncertain, but if we set our engagement and wedding on your birthday, then I'll always be a part of your most important days." She looked at me, smiled, and shook her head. I still remember how I shamelessly followed her around for 2 years before she finally relented with, "We can cherish the present." I was so ecstatic I couldn't speak. Even the hand I reached out to hug her with was hesitant. When she agreed to be with me, my first reaction was gratitude. It felt so unreal, like every day with her was a day of stolen happiness. But I threw that happiness away with my own hands. I couldn't accept that she was about to be engaged to someone else. Why? Just 2 months after we split, was she marrying another man? Was it because of a family arrangement, something she was forced into? The thought gave me a sliver of hope. That must be it. So I had Alex get me into her engagement party. The venue was huge and bustling with business elites and dignitaries. Alex was busy networking while I stared intently at the stage. As the host's voice faded, I saw her appear in a pale pink gown, arm in arm with him, her smile polite and graceful. The soft pink made her skin look even fairer. Anna. It passed by me. I couldn't help but call her name. She didn't hear, just kept smiling and walking forward. "Don't go, Anna. Turn around and look at me." Watching her walk further away, I finally couldn't hold it in any longer and shouted at her back, "Anna, Anna, turn around and look at me." Alex was the first to notice something was wrong and grabbed my arm. "Noah, what are you doing? Do you know where you are?" I ignored her, my eyes fixed on that retreating figure. "Anna, look at me. Please, just one look." I was wrong. I was so wrong. Uninvolved guests started to turn and stare. Then she turned around. But before the joy could register on my face, I saw her give a slight nod to the security guards near me. The guards understood and approached me, making a "this way, sir" gesture. I couldn't believe she could be so cold. She loved me. She had to be with that man because of her family. Anna, I started to say again, but the 2 guards were no longer being polite. They grabbed my arms, covered my mouth, and started dragging me out. Just before I was thrown out, I looked back and saw her raise her glass to the guests and drink it all in one go. The man beside her smoothly took the empty glass from her hand. The gesture was so natural, like a boachi born from years of love. I kept staring, desperate. I watched her go through the entire ceremony without a moment's distraction. As I was tossed out of the venue, all I could manage was a helpless mumble. "It's beautiful. I always wanted to pick a pink gown for your engagement. At least I got my wish." I was in a bad way. Alex noticed and suggested I handle a project overseas, treat it as a business trip to clear my head. But in less than 10 days, I finished everything and rushed back. Alex joked that I was back to being my old workaholic self. I gave a wry smile. I thought a change of scenery would help, but it didn't. I spent every day in a haze of longing and torment. The project was a success, and upon my return, Alex threw a big party for me. After a few drinks, my vision started to blur. I went outside for a cigarette. I rarely used to smoke, thinking it was a bad habit. I never smoked in front of Anna because she hated the smell. But lately, I'd become addicted to it, as if the inhale and exhale could slowly pull the trouble from my mind. In the flickering light, I saw a familiar figure. Almost instinctively, I put my hand behind my back and crushed the cigarette against my fingers. The city is so big. To run into each other twice without trying, I thought there must be some fate between us. She must have seen me too, but she didn't break her stride. I rushed forward, terrified she would walk past me like a stranger. The person with her saw me step in front of her. "Anna, you know him?" Her friends didn't know me. It hit me then. She had never let me into her world. She gave a non-committal nod, and someone said, "I'll wait for you outside." The busy hallway was full of people coming and going, but we stood in silence. She probably had nothing to say, but I had a million things I wanted to. "Anna," I said, my voice full of humility. I reached out, but my hand grasped at empty air. "Anna, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I was a fool. I was an idiot. I let that woman, Jessica, mess with my head. The one I love has always been you. Only you. Really, please believe me. Don't leave me. Every day without you has been torture. You never said we broke up. We're not broken up, right? I pleaded with her, seeking confirmation. The day she left, she never said the words break up, so we were never really broken up. That had to be it. She finally spoke. Do you need me to call you a car? Her tone was polite and distant. It was like I couldn't hear her. I just stared at her stubbornly. Anna, don't be like this. Can we just talk? There must be a misunderstanding. We didn't break up. She finally looked at me. Noah, I thought I made it very clear 3 years ago. We could cherish the present, but there was no future. She was right. Back then, after my relentless pursuit, she had finally agreed, saying, we can cherish the present. But there was a second part to that sentence. But there is no future. That's how it was when we were together. And when we ended things, she only said, we're done, never mentioning a breakup. Because to her, we were never officially together. She always knew who she was and what kind of life she was meant to live. How ridiculous. It was my own delusion. After 3 years with her, I let myself be distracted by the glitter of something new. I was so sure I would love her forever that one day I could win her over completely. But in the end, this was all my own doing. We stood there in a standoff for a while. She started to walk away. In that instant, I couldn't stop myself from grabbing her hand. Was meeting me a mistake? She answered seriously, without a hint of evasion or deception, but also without a trace of emotion. For me, it was a beautiful memory. Then she turned and walked away, drawing a clear line between us without a moment's hesitation. I crumpled to the floor, head in my hands, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. She didn't blame me for cheating, didn't call me a scumbag, and she even remembered the good times we had. What on earth possessed me? I never expected Preston Hayes to contact me. He met me at a coffee shop downstairs from my office. He got straight to the point. I don't want you showing up in front of Anna again. I thought back to the unfamiliar number that called me that morning. Mr. Davis? Do you have a moment? Do all these people like to be so direct, never beating around the bush? He sat there with an air of superiority. Of course, he and Anna were the same kind of people. I couldn't help but sneer, a look I would never show her. I know who you are, and I know about your past, he said. So you feel threatened? He was very calm. No, I just don't want her to be bothered by people or things from her past. It's just a strategic marriage for you two anyway. These high society families look glamorous on the outside, but I'm sure they're full of dirty secrets. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I couldn't control my hostility towards him, even though all I wanted was to stop causing her trouble. A good ex should be like a dead one. But with Preston showing up at my door, I couldn't stay calm. Faced with my aggression, he remained composed. You're right. It is a strategic marriage. It wasn't love at first sight for me either. See, I knew it. But with someone like her, after spending enough time together, it's impossible not to fall for her. I'm just one of the many who have. But I'm the lucky one who gets to be by her side now, and for many years to come. I listened quietly, tragically finding myself with nothing to say. That was her future, a future without me. He didn't shy away from it. I looked into you. I know the story of your 3 years together, but I can give her all of that too. You're a smart man. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to keep her entertained for 3 years. But a story is just a story. Reality often goes in a different direction. I couldn't help but retort, but our 3 years were real. You have no idea how much I loved her or how good she was to me. You can't find that in any investigation. I know that when she's thinking, she unconsciously taps her right middle finger on the table. I know that when she's happy, she tilts her head. I know she never puts sugar in her coffee, and that her favorite thing to do isn't going out, but curling up in her armchair at home with a book. I rattled on, desperate to prove something. He seemed amused. He looked up at me. Weren't you getting along so well with your secretary? With that one sentence, he shattered my world. You should know that staying away is the last gesture of respect you can show for those 3 years. He said more after that, but I didn't hear most of it. It was like my ears were ringing. At the very end, I asked, do you love her? He answered without hesitation. Duh. They got married a year later. Preston was clearly devoted to her. Apparently, both families wanted them to marry sooner, but Preston insisted on finding the perfect date. The wedding was, of course, a magnificent affair, and I could only be a voyeur, hiding behind a screen, watching her walk step by step towards her new husband. Anna, the bouquet is beautiful. So are you. I can sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Want to hear it? Anna, you have to be happy. Something wet slid down my cheek. I wiped it away messily. I don't know how much I drank at the bar that night. I just remember the floor being littered with empty bottles. It's funny how life works. When you don't want to get drunk, you get drunk by accident. When you want to get drunk, you can drink all night and still be painfully sober. I picked up my phone and put it down dozens of times. Finally, I couldn't resist dialing her number. Unsurprisingly, I was blocked. I didn't give up. I borrowed a phone from someone at the next table. As I dialed with trembling fingers, every ring was agonizing. The call connected. I heard her voice. Hello. I bit my lip until it bled, tears mixing with the alcohol in my mouth. Who is this? I choked out the words. Anna, will you ever think of me? The next second, the line went dead. That night, I sat alone in a bar and cried like a fool.